Hello, Mrs. Ferguson here from the Wilson Public Library, branch of the Southern Oklahoma Library System. And hey, kids, I'm coming talking to you, reaching out to you, talk to you guys about the anniversary of an event that happened in Oklahoma 131 years ago. So be thinking about that while I ask a favor of you. So I've been missing you guys here at the library at Wilson, and I've been missing your questions about books and um, talking to you about the books that you're interested in, and I'm looking forward to getting back to seeing you guys back in the library, and I know that's going to happen soon. So, in the meantime, I want you guys, I hope you're having lots of fun too with your families and doing lots of fun things and reading lots of books at home. So, I wanted to ask a favor of you guys if you will remind your parents about the Census 2020, and probably they've already taken care of that. They've probably already sent it in, and they're done with it. But if they haven't, it's really important for the community and for our state and for our country. So the Census 2020 survey can be done on the phone. It can be completed by using the computer, or you can send the invitation, the survey that was sent to you in the mail, you can send that back in. It's really simple. It only takes a few minutes, and it's really important. So also, if you'll check out the Southern Oklahoma Library System Facebook page and the YouTube channel, there are lots of cool things and ideas for you guys to get creative, okay, and do during this time while you're at home. So check that out. So I wanted to talk to you about today, April the 22nd, which is Earth Day, about an event that also happened on April 22nd in 1889, which was 131 years ago. 131 years ago was the land run of Oklahoma, okay? And it happened on this date in 1889, April the 22nd. Okay, so this was what this was, and I know that most of you guys already know about this. You've learned about it in school. You participated in the mock land run at school, which is great fun. But just in case you've forgotten, or maybe you haven't heard about it, I'm going to give you a quick little lesson on the land run. Okay, so the land run was when a group of settlers flooded into the region of central Oklahoma. Okay, they came to to central Oklahoma, to an area known as the unassigned lands. Okay, so President Benjamin Harrison, he signed a proclamation or a declaration, or maybe you might call it an announcement. He signed that on March the 23rd, 1889, which was about a month before the actual land run event. And what it did was opened up this land in Oklahoma, and people came from across the country to claim a portion of this land in Oklahoma for free. Okay, so people came from lots of different places to Oklahoma, to the unassigned lands. And they could, as long as they participated in the land run, and they were able to pick out or find a piece of land before someone else claimed it, then the land was theirs. Okay, they had to make improvements on the land in order to keep it, but that wasn't going to be difficult to do because they had to have a place to live, right? And this land is nothing on it. Okay, there are no stores, there are no homes, there are no houses, there are no roads. So that was their goal. Okay, all right. So I know that you guys have probably heard the term Boomer Sooner. And that's actually where this term came from, was during this time. So boomers were people who campaigned for the lands to be opened up. Okay, and Sooners were people who settled on the land before its official opening to settlement. Okay, so most of them they kind of cheated. Okay, so they weren't allowed to be on the land or claim the land until the actual start of the land run, which was at noon on April the 22nd. Okay, so these people, they went ahead of others. Maybe they hid out. And the book that I'm going to read to you tells a little bit about that. Okay, so be listening up for that. But so these people, a couple of different reasons. Maybe they didn't have a horse to ride to get to the land quick enough. Maybe they were on foot, or maybe they only had a bicycle. Or maybe they just were looking for the best piece of land, because most everyone who participated in this, they were looking for a good piece of land, a piece of land that maybe had water and trees on it, that would make it easier for them to settle. Okay, so I'm going to read a book to you. It's called The Oklahoma Land Run. It's by Una Bell Townsend, and it's illustrated by Emil Henrique. Okay, so this picture shows you a picture of the unassigned lands in Oklahoma. Okay, so this was the area where they had the land run event. So in order to kind of give you guys a perspective on where this is in Oklahoma, which is the state that you live in, so this is a map of Oklahoma. Okay, this is the state that you live in, and this area right here in central Oklahoma, this was the area where the unassigned lands were opened up for settlement, for the land run, and for people to come and claim free land for settlement. Okay, so I'm going to read this story to you, and then I want to show you a couple of pictures. Okay, all right. So this is a picture of a surveyor stone. You're going to hear more about that in the story, but the people who participated in the land run, they were looking for this. On the piece of land that they wanted, they had to find this that had numbers on it in reference to the identification of the land. They had to find it in order for that land to be documented as theirs, okay, to claim it. "I can do it, Pa. I know I can," said Jesse, as he fed the horses Ben and Bob in the shed. "Son, you're too young and it's dangerous," answered Pa. "Hundreds of people will be there, maybe thousands. Our horses are strong, but if they get excited, they'll be hard to handle." Pa tried to get his shoulder and arm in a better position in his sling. His fall last week had been a bad one. Tomorrow would be April 22nd, 1889. At noon, 2 million acres, called the unassigned lands, would be given to settlers in a land run. Now his dream of pounding a stake in the ground to claim 160 acres of free land in the Oklahoma Territory would not come true. Tugging at his sling again, he knew he couldn't even drive his wagon. So Paul has an injury, which he feels like is going to prevent him from participating in the land run. "Paul," Jesse pleaded, "it's our only chance. You've let me drive before." "You're right, Jesse. I guess you'll have to drive the team tomorrow," Paul said, picking up a wooden stake with his good hand. "I'll be there beside you, but I just don't like the idea of my 9-year-old son racing against grown men." He threw the stake to the ground. So Jesse is only 9. He's only 9 years old, and he's going to drive the wagon, okay, for his dad. Sounds pretty brave, right? That evening, Jesse helped his Pa lie down. He pulled a quilt over him and said, "Pa, I can do it. I'll get us some land." When it was time to go to the starting line the next morning, Ma gave them a dinner bucket with beans, biscuits, and jerky in it. Jesse helped Pa climb into the wagon. "Get close to the front," said Pa. "We'll have to look out for Sooners. They'll have their claim registered before most of us can put a stake in the ground." Sooners. At the starting line, they waited for the signal to begin. Men pushed past them on horseback. Others in wagons and in one-horse buggies wiggled their way toward the starting line. A few on bicycles and on foot tried to sneak ahead of the others. "Whoa! Get back behind the line!" shouted a tall soldier on horseback as he patrolled the starting area. The men turned around and joined the others. One family tried to hide in a clump of bushes. "Move back!" yelled the tall Fort Reno cavalryman. So this guy here, he was patrolling the area, acting sort of like a policeman to make sure that people weren't breaking the rules. "Pa, a captain over there says the trains are full of people ready to jump off for some of the free land," said Jesse. "You reckon that's true?" "Don't know," said Pa. "There must be 100 wagons around here. I'm sure there are plenty of people on trains, too." The impatient crowd continued to push toward the starting line. As it neared noon, the settlers became quiet. At 12 o'clock, a cannon's blast shattered the silence. Riders on horses darted out in front. "Yee-haw!" yelled Jesse, slapping the reins to his horses. Ben and Bob sprang forward. The rumblings of horses' hooves and wagon wheels filled the air. Dust flew everywhere. Jesse's eyes stung. He and Pa gasped for some fresh air. So there's a really good video. I'm going to tell you this before I forget. So on the movie Far and Away, there's a really good reenactment of the land run. It's very cool if you get a chance to watch it. Jesse's heart pounded wildly. He had a tight grasp on the reins. Within a few minutes, his hands throbbed. He relaxed his grip a little. It would be a long race. So there were miles and miles of people who ran participated in this land run. So can you imagine the sound of all the horses running and the people yelling? A rough-looking man in a nearby wagon yelled, "Get out of my way, boy! Young'uns your age shouldn't be a-driving." He grabbed his whip and boomed at his horses. "Faster, I said, faster." Jesse and Paul look a little frightened by this man. He means business. He tried squeezing his wagon between Jesse's and another one. For a moment, Jesse thought their wheels would be locked together, tearing up Paul's wagon. Tightening his grip on the reins again, Jesse yelled, "What'll I do, Pa?" "Hold her steady and keep her straight," said Pa. "You'll be all right." The burly man charged to the front, scattering dirt all over the wagons he passed. Jesse and his pa breathed in the swirling dust and coughed. "Pa, my eyes feel gritty," shouted Jesse. He wiped his face and blew dirt from his lips. "Keep driving, son," said Pa. He winced in pain as the wagon bumped along the uneven prairie. So I don't know if you guys have had the experience of maybe walking or riding a bike or even in a car or maybe an ATV of some sort on pasture land. So there aren't any roads typically, and so it's rough. There are terraces and bumps and holes. So it could easily tear up a wagon, or a horse could have an injury. Before long, they noticed a few people slowing down. Some were working on broken wagon wheels. Others took care of lame horses. "Pa, there's a pond over there with some cedar trees around it. Let's claim that land," said Jesse, and he slowed the horses. As they got closer, they saw a red-haired man standing under a tree. His horse gulped water at the pond. "Move on," he yelled, holding up his hammer and stake. "This land's mine." Paul sighed, shifted in his seat, and said, "Jesse, turn the horses toward that little hill over there." Jesse looked around him as the horses climbed to the top of the hill. He said, "I like this land, Pa. There's a creek in the valley and wildflowers growing on the hillside. There's even some mistletoe hanging in the trees." "I like it too," said Pa. "We could build a house over there by those trees and plant a big garden." "Whoa, Ben! Whoa, Bob!" said Jesse, pulling the wagon up to the creek. The thirsty horses stretched their necks toward the water. "I'll look for the surveyor's stone," said Jesse, as he jumped from the wagon. He knew Paul needed the information on it to claim the land. Jesse ran up and down the hill and then toward the creek, searching for the stone. "I've got to find it," he thought. Water, really important on a piece of land that you're claiming. For instance, for the horses, okay, and for the people to drink and water their garden. After a few minutes, he yelled, "Look, Pa, I think that's the stone we're looking for, the one near the top of the hill on the other side of the creek." He grabbed the hammer and stake and ran toward the water. Taking a deep breath, he splashed through the creek. It was cold, but he didn't care. He roared up the hill and saw the surveyor's stone near a pile of rocks. He quickly placed Pa's stake next to it. The surveyor's stone with the information on it that they need to claim the land. Then he pounded the stake in the hard ground until it was deep in the dirt. Turning toward his pa, he threw his hat in the air. "We did it, Pa," he yelled. "We did it." He knew the next few years would be busy ones. They would have to build a house and improve the land in order to keep it. Right now, though, he couldn't wait to tell his ma about the wildflowers in bloom. She'd like that. What he'd like, though, was fishing and swimming in the creek. Okay, so what he said about improving on the land, so they couldn't just claim it and then be done. They had to show improvements on the land, which would be building a home, building maybe a barn, pens for your animals, or a garden. And a garden would be necessary during this time because there weren't grocery stores. Okay, so I want to show you some pictures. So this is a picture of what a settler might look like during this time, or a cowboy, okay? And notice that he has on a hat, and the hat was really important for shading, protection from the sun, okay? And they also used their hats to carry things in, okay? Maybe water. They would even use them to drink out of, or carry water, maybe give water to their horses. Okay. Um, Also, if you notice, he has a gun. Okay. So not only did they not have grocery stores, and at this point they don't have gardens, so they're going to need some source of food. And I'm sure that most of the people probably brought a small portion, like Jesse and Paul, brought a small portion of food with them. But so they're going to need guns for hunting. Okay, to hunt and forage for food. Okay, so also, unfortunately, I told you about the Sooners. So there were people who actually fought for pieces of land. Okay, and in some cases there were gunfights. Okay, and um, not good, but that's what happened. Okay. So this is a picture of a woman with a hat. Okay, women needed hats too for protection from the sun, and they also used them to carry things. This was a different type of hat that it's called a bonnet that women wore, and it was made out of material, and the ruffle around the edge protected their sun from the face, the face from the sun. Okay, and so this is a bicycle back during this time. Um, some people did ride a bicycle to race for a piece of land. It wouldn't get them there as quickly as a horse, right? So a horse was really important. Speaking of, some people also walked. Some people also walked to claim a piece of land. They were going to have to walk further, of course, because most of the pieces of land were going to be claimed along the way. So the people that were on foot were not going to get there as quickly. And okay, and then a horse was really important, and the horse could get there the fastest. So it was an advantage to have a horse. And also, if you did not have to pull a wagon with your horse, then you could also get there faster. Okay, and not only that could the horse could go faster if he wasn't pulling a wagon, but also along the way, because the land was uneven and not level, there weren't any roads. The wagons might have a wheel break, and so they would have to stop to repair it. So the wagons were used for protection from the weather, as a shelter for the time being until they could build a home. And a lot of people, they came from different areas, different regions of the United States, so and beyond. So they had their belongings. They gathered up their things for wherever they were, and they probably weren't able to take everything, but so a lot of the people that pulled the wagons had all of their belongings in there. Okay, and notice the small animal here, the goat. So some people even carried small animals with them. The goat would be an important source of food, right? So they could have milk from the goat. They could also use it for meat if they had to. So also, speaking of goats and having milk, so cows. Some people had brought cows with them, and they even used the cows to pull their wagon. It certainly couldn't pull it as fast as a horse, but it could pull it faster than being on foot or on bicycle, or the people wouldn't be able to pull it themselves. So if you didn't have a horse, you could use a cow, and you would have milk from the cows and food even if you needed it. So this was a picture of a wagon train. Okay, people traveled in groups a lot when they could for safety. Okay, so this is a canteen. It was something used by cowboy settlers to put water in. Okay, they would fill it up and they would have water with them because there weren't sources of water everywhere, okay, on the land. So it might be miles and miles and miles before they found a water source. Okay. Okay, so beef jerky. This is beef jerky, and so you guys are probably used to seeing this in a package that you buy at the store. So this is stored in a jar. So beef jerky was a really good staple item to have because it didn't have to be cooled. It was dried meat, so these are slices of meat that they dried, dehydrated, and it would stay good for a really long time. And it was protein that they could carry with them, and it didn't have to be cooled. It wouldn't ruin, okay? So this was stored in a jar. They might have wrapped it in paper, okay, or cloth. Okay, so you heard that Mom packed a pail with food for their dinner. used that for food, carrying food, but also for hauling water. Okay, and say when they needed to water their horses or water their garden. Okay, this is a picture of a cowboy with his whip. Okay, you heard in the story that the man had a whip to make his horses go faster. Okay, this is a picture of a wooden stake. So everyone that participated in the land run, they had to have a stake. They had to have a stake and they had to drive it in the ground near the surveyor stone in order to claim their land. Okay, and whoever drove the stake in first, and there was competition on who could drive the stake in a particular piece of land first. So there were arguments over land. This is an older hammer. Thought that was a cool picture. And this one's even more cool, I think. This is a hammer made from a rock and a piece of wood. Okay. And this is a picture of a surveyor stone. Notice the stake beside it, and so there would have been numbers on here. That would identify that piece of land, and the people had to report that to authorities to document their claim on the land. And then last, there's a picture of a cabin, a log cabin, which would have been made from cutting down trees. So trees were a really good resource to have on your land also, so you could cut them down and build a shelter. Okay, so that brings me to my next thing. So I thought it would be really cool to challenge you guys to maybe if you have some craft sticks at home or popsicle sticks, which is the same thing. Okay, they're just smaller. And if you use those to maybe try to build a cabin, okay? Get creative and see if you can build a small little cabin. Or maybe if you don't have craft sticks, maybe you could use sticks from outside. Go out into your yard and gather up some sticks. Those are easy to find out in the yard. And get creative and build a small cabin. And hey, send some pictures. I would love to see how creative you are. Have yourself a mock land run with your family outdoors. Okay, so the land run of April 1889, April 22nd, 1889, happened on this date 131 years ago. It's a really important event in Oklahoma's history. Hope you guys learned something today. I think the land run and all of the events that took place during that time are really interesting. So thanks for joining me today. Take care, and I hope to see you soon in the library. Thanks, guys.